Are you in a relationship and wondering whether you should stay or go? Are you thinking about getting engaged or already engaged? Are you married and stuck in a rut? I work with all three groups in my coaching practice, and what makes me unique is that my clients have access to me in between sessions via WhatsApp. As a result, they end up having what amounts to a relationship concierge, someone who's standing by, ready to help couples dig their way out of conflict and help singles navigate new love. Lately, I've been hearing a lot more from single women who are in a relationship. What if we're not politically aligned? What do we do about our student debt? When is it too soon or too late to have sex? What if he or she only texts me and never calls? Can a long-distance relationship work? Let's face it, the dating scene is a mess. We can't even call it dating anymore. It's just considered hanging out or having a situationship. What the hell is a situationship? Women don't have time to mess around with situationships. Get in or get out. Don't waste time with men who won't commit. Believe it or not, there's a way to sift through the rubble and wind up married if that is what you want. All you lack is a roadmap. I provide women with the roadmap they need and help them travel it too. If you or if a woman you know is currently in a relationship she wants to lead to marriage, I can help. My last client was married and pregnant within a year of working with me. You are insanely helpful, she wrote to me afterward. It made my day. So let's get you unstuck so you can find the love you crave. Just go to suzannevenker.com/coaching and sign up for a session today. From the magnificent Midwest, it's the Suzanne Venker Show, where men and women are equal in value but wildly different by nature. Join us here every week when we challenge the culture's hugely flawed narratives about men, women, sex, and love. From coast to coast and from around the world, thank you for joining us. It is very fitting for me to introduce my guest today, who happens to be a fellow Midwesterner. She's a blogger and YouTuber who goes by the moniker Mrs. Midwest and has made quite a name for herself by touting the power of femininity and traditional family values. Her blog is called Mrs. Midwest, and she joined YouTube in 2019 with the goal of creating a haven for traditionally feminine women trying to find their place in the modern world. It is her aim to help women blossom into their natural femininity through discussions on style, mindset, and relationships. What Caitlin's work ultimately proves is that being successful as a woman does not have to mean rejecting female nature and adopting traditionally male traits. In this way, she and I share a similar mission, which is to give voice to the everyday woman and to show the power of men and women as complementary rather than competitive beings. Welcome to the show, Caitlin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to talk with you. Really, I've had some people over the last year or two mention, like, have you heard of this Mrs. Midwest?
Oh.
You have to have her on. And I did, and I just didn't get right on it. And now
so
I have.
sweet.
So I'm thrilled to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm a fan of the show. So, I was just looking up these topics online and your podcast showed up and I saw that you were already following me on Instagram and I was like really excited because I was a big fan. So it was great to get connected.
Yeah. You have quite a social media following. So let's just put on the table our age difference here for everybody. So Caitlin is 25.
26.
26, sorry, 26. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
26. I'm 53. So she's quite, you're right at the, you're at the tail end of the millennials. And
yeah,
I don't know
weird.
how you
don't fully relate with a lot of millennial stuff, but I don't fully relate with a lot of Gen Z stuff. I've been seeing that come up a lot with people born like around 95, which is when I was born. It's kind of that in between time. Like I don't really remember the 90s. I was so young, but a lot of millennials really do. So
this is curious to me. What do you see as the biggest difference between millennials and Gen Z? Because I have two Gen Z kids. That's why I'm pointing out our age difference here. And very interested in Gen Z, needless to say.
Yeah, I would say, there's definitely more of like a pull with like Facebook, especially with millennials. My husband's 1 year older than me and he's all over Facebook. I am not there at all, and I feel like
Facebook is so yesterday. But just so you know, everybody listening to this probably uses Facebook.
I do notice like a lot of Gen Z, not so much. I feel like there's definitely, people older than me, I noticed this, when they graduated university, my age group was like the last group to get married right away. Now I'm noticing everyone younger than us, if they were dating in college, they're waiting a few years, or they're not even dating in college. They're just waiting longer and longer. That's really interesting. I feel like there's a difference too in like the way they express themselves online, then there's like the fashion and all of that. But I do think it's, you it's still kind of forming out, the
Yeah, it is.
differences. Also, Gen Z is so young, so I feel like they're going to change as well as they get older. I feel like too they have just have
So I was going to ask you about this
different
later.
interests. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
But I'm going to ask you now. So are your followers, tell me about your followers. What are the ages
Yeah.
mostly?
It's mostly I would say 18 to 35. So a mixture, but we are starting to see a lot younger women too. So, and I think the people who are kind of the biggest, you could say fans, like the people who reach out the most, like they'll send me PO box mail, they'll email me. Those women are usually under the age of 25 to 15 to 25. And then, yeah, you get your occasional woman who's, had 6 kids and she's a grandmother and she supports, but I would say it's definitely women, anywhere from like 15 to 35, which is such a wonderful age group in my opinion, all because
Agreed.
life just changes so much. But I would definitely say I see a lot of women who it's not so much their age that unites them, it's like that feeling of I don't quite fit in. I don't quite fit in with greater society, or I feel slightly uncomfortable with this path I've been put on, or what my parents want me to do, or whatever. And so they're searching for like-minded women. And they often find my content or the content of other homemakers who emphasize femininity. And that's kind of how they, find it. And with the older women, you'll find women who maybe they've been a feminist for a really long time, or they've gone down a different path. And now they're trying to plug back into femininity. And then with the younger women, you have women who maybe were raised in more traditional households. They don't like a lot of the messaging for their generation. Or you'll have women in a transitional age, like 24, 25. They think, oh, I kind of want to settle down, and I didn't want kids 6 years ago, but now I kind of do, and I can relate with that as well. And so it's just, I think, a lot of women who are searching for like an identity in this world, and just not really jiving, I guess you could say, with feminism and this really brash, aggressive kind of framework that has been set out for women.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that in a minute. I can't listen to all this and not mention that I have this book coming out in August called How to Get Hitched and Stay Hitched. And it is specifically for the exact group that you just identified.
Yes.
In fact, the subtitle is called a 12-step program for marriage-minded women.
I love that.
Yes,
marriage-minded women. Yes, because it's not about just, I need to get married by 24 and pop out some kids and then, get divorced by 38. No, we want to be married for life. Like that's another thing I'm seeing. It's women who want to build like an entire life. They don't just want to cruise through their 20s. They don't just want to get the next material thing. They're thinking so long term, kind of like how I did. Where will I be at 70? What will my life look like? How can I build the life that I want super long term?
Absolutely. So, that is like a key of this whole thing.
Yes, that book sounds like it's so needed.
It is so needed. Yes. And I'm excited about it. It kind of combines a lot of things I've done in the past into one package. And it just identifies these 4 main lies the culture has told women in the part 1. And then the part 2 is the detox. I call it a detox.
I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I'm too. So in a few months, I'll be pushing that big time. But okay. So let's start with kind of what you just said. I have a quote here. And just so everybody knows, she has, Caitlin has obviously a big YouTube platform. So there's just tons of videos on there. And I went through a handful of them and just sort of pulled out some comments or videos, topics that she has addressed. And we're going to talk about that today. So on one of them, you wrote, modern feminism has become a notorious exclusive girls' club reserved for the badass woman who slay through life, independent and smashing the patriarchy. Women like most of you, well, first you identified yourself, women like me, meaning you, and most of you, your followers, don't fit into that role. It's not natural to us.
Mm.
And anybody who's following my program knows exactly why I would want to have you on, because that sounds like something I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to broaden it to say, I think it's not natural to most women, not just your specific followers, but that it's
I'm very
more
soft
normal
most of the time with my language because
Yeah, I
it's
know. I could tell.
a huge concept behind my YouTube channel and my blog in general is just I saw a lot of content, talking about these problems, but it was so harsh it turned off a lot of women, especially young women. And the feminism and all of that messaging is super persuasive. And I studied persuasion in university, like I knew all of that. And so my goal was to create palatable videos that wouldn't turn off women, especially people who have grown up in the mainstream, people who don't hear these kind of ideas often, and just so that they could hear different perspectives, not to manipulate them, to force them to believe this stuff, but just so that they wouldn't turn it off right away or write it off, so but I would agree, I do think most women don't fit into this. And I really haven't talked about feminism head on since starting my channel, just because I kind of came out with a boom and then I like calmed down over the time. And now I'm a mom and all of that, but I'm still so passionate about this topic because I believe that it has really damaged a lot of lives. And I've seen this in, my friends' lives. I've seen this in real life. I've seen this online. I've received countless emails, countless letters about it. And, it's so pervasive. I don't think there's much we can do on like a huge scale, but if we all do our like small part, I feel like we can really help other women see, hey, if you're not, enjoying this messaging, if it's not suiting your life, you don't have to like live this life. And it's also it's so sneaky because they get you in college with
That's right.
Men and women deserve equal rights. I agree. And that's what feminism is. And then you agree with that. And then before you know it, you're agreeing with the next thing that you agree with. And then the next thing and the next thing. And they're adding everything on until finally you're arguing for obesity being okay and body positivity and every single little argument under the sun, from veganism to, refugees and all the intersectional points. And we're not even talking about women anymore. And it's like, the movement was created for women. And so that's what I'm passionate about. And those other things, sure, they're important and they have a space online for people who are interested in them. But I want to help women thrive. And I want to be honest about what helps them thrive.
Love it.
And the thing is, a lot of them know deep down. And that's why most of my videos are just like, what do you actually feel at the end of the day? What do you want to do? What do you feel the best, at? And it's really sad, I guess you could say, to see so many people being lied to. And especially for women, we have such a short period of time where we can build that life we want because of our biological clocks, because of the dating market and the reality of dating after 45 or whatever, and that's why I think it's so important to create these messages for young women.
And tell the truth. Really, this is about telling the truth, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. And the thing is, the truth for somebody could be, I love my career. I will never, want children. I sometimes listen to podcasts from women who are just totally different from me, because those people are out there.
Sure.
But I don't think it's the majority. And I also think a lot of people think what they want at 18 is what they're going to want at 28. And that's just not true. I did not play with baby dolls. I did not care about that. I wanted to get married, but I never really thought about babies until after I was married. And then things changed. Can you imagine if I decided never to get married because I thought, oh, I don't want a family? Things change. And if we create a life where we can't pivot away from where we're headed, that's scary. And so it's just, I really think, these women our age or whatever, they don't have to like choose, okay, I'm going to get married by 25 and I'm going to have 6 kids and this is how it's going to be. But at least pivot your life where that could be an option. You're not so boiled down in this like insane career that you can't even meet a guy. You're not hooking up with every person, that you're so damaged and you have so much baggage that you can't even fathom, the emotional weight of a marriage, And so I just think it's really important for, like I said at the beginning, that long-term plan, not just thinking what you want tomorrow and really just stepping away from that hedonistic, like way of living. But I know a lot of
Absolutely.
young people fall into that. I don't fault people either. Like, I understand why people think this stuff is good for them or it's going to make them happy. I do understand,
Yes.
but it's not going to make
Well,
me
not
stop talking about it.
no, and not
Yeah.
only that, it's I don't understand how we can expect them to think any other way when that's what they
Yes.
are fed
Yeah.
every day. It
Yeah.
isn't really their
Absolutely.
fault.
Hmm.
That's one of the
Yeah.
arguments I'm making with this book. It's like it sounds like I'm, harping on young people, but the truth of the matter is I wouldn't expect them to think any other way.
No,
This is
not
what
at
you get
all.
when you sell that message.
Yes. Yes. And it's so pervasive. Like, I even have days where, you're scrolling on Instagram and you see, the feminine leader or the female lead, I think it's called, like, Instagram pages, very feminist, and they're just sharing all this content and you think like, wow, this does not resonate with me. And am I a bad person because of this? And women just, we want to be included. We want to fit in. We want to, have harmony. That's pretty typical. And that's a pretty common feminine trait a lot of women just naturally have. And so it makes sense that they want to go with the flow.
Yeah.
They don't want to cause an uproar,
Yep.
and they don't want to be perceived as a quote unquote bad person.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that. I really do. It's not fun looking, at, like, for example, if you look up me online, people say all kinds of crazy stuff about me, because essentially they don't like the core messaging that,
Mm-hmm.
I've put out. They'll accuse me of all sorts of stuff that I've never said or don't
Mm-hmm.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not fun. I'm a woman and I don't like it. I want everyone to like me. I want to be in harmony with even my enemies. But the reality is nowadays that's just not going to happen. And I don't think it's worth sacrificing like people's actual happiness,
So that you feel
for
good all
these
the time.
beliefs. Yes.
You mean, yeah. And that's, yeah, I mean, it's, oh my gosh. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's, my argument has always been, you can't just do nothing or say nothing because then you're not, at the very least, you need to be passing this on to your children at the very
Yes.
least, so that they
Yes.
are fortified with what the truth is when they're getting all this stuff from the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and there are parents who have failed miserably at this. And sometimes
Yeah.
it isn't, again, it kind of happened without their realizing it to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't realize how much was changing and how much their kids were being fed. On the other hand, that's your job to know what's being said.
Right. I
And so I'm
agree.
always towing the line there. And like, at the end of the day, parenting is your only opportunity to have a voice
Mm.
during those years that you have children at home. You can't
Mm-hmm.
be convinced that they're going to follow your messages. If,
Mm-hmm.
if they don't, they don't. But the point is that you've given the alternative,
Mm-hmm.
and you've modeled it, hopefully. And I think most of the time that your voice will be, well, I know it will be more important than the culture or their friends over time. It won't always seem that
Yeah.
way. But
Yeah. Like you
it's a
showing
duty.
them like a safe place of, I believe these things. You'll hear this stuff from the culture, but this is what I believe. And as they grow up, most often people do want to recreate what they saw that worked, as kids.
Absolutely.
And so if you do that effectively and you show them, you might be different from the culture, but you're like me, we're a family,
Yeah.
that's comforting. It's comforting to have people who do have similar beliefs. And that's another thing, why I think you mentioned, I have a big online presence. I
Mhm.
don't think that's necessarily just because of like how I made my content or anything special. I think it's because there's so many people looking to belong outside of that mainstream feminism, like the quote you used from me that I must have said a few years ago now, but it's still so true of just so many women feel like they don't belong to that. And I guess the biggest message that I have tried to put out is if you don't belong to that, that's okay. And you're not a bad person. You're not a weak woman. You're not a stupid woman. And you're not a failure at life. If anything, you're stronger for swimming upstream, for choosing kind of the hard path. It is a hard path
Mhm.
nowadays, too. Most often it's not just going against what your friends are doing or the social media, it's even going against what your parents want for you. I
Bingo.
get
Bingo.
countless emails. My mom and dad
Oh,
want me to go to masters.
oh,
They want me this, they want me that. And the sickest part of it to me is that these parents, they got to get married, they got to have their little happy home life, they got to have their babies, they got to have all this, and then they're forcing their children out of such joy that they already got to experience, it grosses me out.
Amen.
Honestly.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Amen. I mean, I cannot tell you the number of people that I know whose parents are basically like kids. It's like
Yes.
the kids are the parents and the parents are thinking like the
Mm-hmm.
kids, like just a very
Yes, it's
juvenile. Oh, just worry about that
bizarre. Mm-hmm.
later. Go have fun. Go
Ugh,
find
yeah.
yourself. Make money. All of
Mm-hmm.
these messages that are completely, and there's no follow through with it. Like, okay, so if you want me to
Mm-hmm.
wait 10 years to get married, what am I going to do in the meantime? Let's talk
Well,
about
yes,
that.
absolutely. And it's insane too. You'll even see this in the Christian community. This is what bothers me. Wait till marriage, but don't get married till 28.
Yeah,
How
bingo.
unrealistic.
Oh, thank you.
That's
I've never heard anybody
insane.
else say this but
No.
me.
Oh,
Thank
really?
you.
Oh,
Those two do
my
not go
husband and
together.
no, my
No.
husband and I talk about that
Oh
all
my
the time.
God. Makes
Like
me
if you're
nuts.
single, and you just really haven't found the right person and you're celibate, according to your Christian beliefs, that's one thing. But if so many Christian parents expect their kids to date, just celibate date for years, and torture, cruel torture.
Not just torture. It just doesn't exist that way anymore. Now, on my Mother's Day, my parents are both gone.
Yeah.
But my parents were born my dad was in 1922, my mother in 1930. She could date around in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
1950s and not have sex with them. People didn't do that. You could actually even date more than one guy at one time because it was casual.
Yeah.
Like in the real sense of casual.
I was thinking about that the other week, how much I wish my friends had access to that type of lifestyle.
Same. I really wish that was still here, but you know what? That is not coming back. So
no.
the reality is that cat has been out of the bag. So the idea of casual dating in that genuine sense is never going to happen, which means you cannot simultaneously tell someone to wait for marriage and be celibate at the same time or whatever. It's just not going to fly.
And there's also this lie that you have to be single in order to grow as an individual. And that grosses me out too for a few reasons, because first of all, a lot of people I know have become better people since being in a relationship. I am one of them. You having that close accountability, especially if you're, not a narcissist, you're willing to change, you know how to say I'm sorry, you can grow exponentially in a marriage, in a relationship. And what happened to growing together? I saw Gretchen McGreer, she's a homemaker on Instagram I follow, and she did a Q&A this week, and someone asked her, why did you get married so young? Because she had revealed that her and her husband they were basically homeless when they got married. Now they're fine. But she was saying that, to me, marriage is a journey. It's not a destination. I'm not going to get married after I've accomplished all these things, after I've established myself. I want to do that with my partner, how we can grow together and achieve that together. And, unfortunately, I think for a lot of people, that journey breaks them and they just get divorced. But for me, that journey of building your life together, getting married young, I think that really fuses the marriage. Having a newborn baby, I think it wasn't as hard for us because we had gone through so much already as a young married couple, and we'd have that opportunity to grow versus being older, being established, being two separate people. I'm not saying you can't make it work when you're older. You absolutely can. But to push this narrative that we all have to wait till we're 30 is ridiculous. And it's also insane because it just ignores biology. And then you have all these women having to do IVF, and that's a whole other story. But
this is like a promo for my book. I love it. Seriously, because that is the ultimate message, is that you have to follow through all these messages you're passing on to the young and think it through about what you're actually asking of them. Because they're confused.
Yes, and it's just not realistic.
Example. I mean, just really quickly to comment on that, you look at the monies, the debt that young people are in right now. So much of that, it has to do with having delayed marriage, because you're focused solely on your career and you go back to school, you take on all this debt, and then you're trying to come into marriage 8 years later with all the debt. Well, you could have done that totally different. First of all, marriage doesn't keep you from getting educated.
Absolutely.
You can still get married and have a career. It's the kids. Once you have children is when that plan's going to get derailed. So marriage itself doesn't derail your education. You can get your money life in order and all of that while getting married. And so my argument is, get your person first and make all your other decisions around that, and you will succeed. I
do think too, though, people like to collect degrees as, it's a way of validating intelligence. It's a way of validating I had the money to go to college. I had the time. I have the smarts. Look how accomplished I am. And not everyone has an ulterior motive, but if you're not using that degree in a severe way 5 years later, why did you get it?
Which most aren't.
Yes.
Which is not an argument not to go to college. That's not the point we're making.
I know. I don't regret going to university, but after my third year, I was done my major. I do regret not just dropping out and using those skills, because I ended up a YouTuber, homemaker. Now I'm barely doing any content online and I'm being a mom, and it's rough for women out there is what I'm just like that. It's just rough in so many different ways. And it's also sad, like women I grew up with, I'm seeing them, their career, they don't really enjoy working. They like being in school. They don't like working. So they'll go back and get another degree and they're not really meeting the guy yet. So I'll go back to college. That's where I used to meet guys. Like I'll get my master's and maybe I'll meet another one, and it's just, it's a very safe haven. It's like a safe place for women, and I get that. College is comfortable, but you can't do it forever, and work is work, and I think often we have this like really glamorous idea of what a career is. I know I had that when I was 14, you think of the apartment downtown and the classy job, but it's a job at the end of the day. And I really think it's important to focus on our, life outside of work, and what's that going to look like, and also recognizing alternative paths like being a homemaker, which is a huge reason I went online.
Definitely. So let's get into those specifics.
Sure.
So just to one of the first things I wanted to say was that you represent, I would call you as a traditional homemaker, you represent about a quarter of married mothers with children today. Just a little FYI in case you didn't know background. I represent another 25, and then 50% of married mothers are roughly 50, it's actually a little bit less, 48, 49, are full-time year-round, what you'd call, well, I don't know if we use this term anymore, but working mothers. The 25%, like myself, are married mothers who work part-time, right? And then the ones who are fully at home, although you could actually argue that you're really in my group because you sort of, and I know exactly, when I was your age, so when I was your age, I didn't have a child yet, but your trajectory is a little bit like mine in that you're in and then you're out when you have babies, and then you're likely going to get back in part-time somehow, and you're doing it from home. I did it from home. I quit I'm a teacher by trade. I taught in my 20s. I quit, get this, when I was pregnant with my oldest.
That's perfect.
Talk about, people are like, you're doing what? I didn't even wait till I had the baby. I was pregnant. I'm like, well, I'm leaving because I'm going home.
That's a good choice. Yeah.
And I wanted to get some things going, knowing that my life was going to be forever changed for the next 20 years. So I actually, I was tutoring a little bit, and when you have one baby, you can work on a schedule very, very easily. But then when you have two, all bets are off. So once I had my second, I was totally out of the picture. And I just blogged whenever I could, because blogging was just starting then. But I didn't write my second book until they were both in school, like school, like, first grade. All of which is to say, I represent about a quarter of married mothers who move in and out of the workforce throughout the course of their lives as the needs of their families change. And then there's about 25 who are fully not employed, married, mothers at home. And then there's about 48, 49 who are what you see in the media, which people like to think that's what majority is, but guess what? It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Most married mothers prefer to work not at all or part-time when they have children at home. So that's just something a little
well, and it would be interesting to know how much of that 51% is there by necessity versus actual
desire.
Like they could stay home. Yeah, that's very fascinating as well.
Actually, there is research on that, and I don't have the exact numbers on it in front of me, but there has been research on that. So if you dig, you can find what percentage of those people actually want to be there. And what you'll find, generally speaking, is that when asked what their preferences are, the vast majority will say they prefer to work part-time or not at all, but they can't or they don't or whatever the reason it may be. Maybe they're married to men who husbands who don't make, and they feel that they can't afford it, or they didn't know they can't afford it, because one of the arguments, again, that I'm going to be making this year is that you're making all these decisions financially without any consideration of the fact that you're going to be out of the workforce. So you'll build up all this debt. You're buying houses based on 2 incomes instead of 1. You shouldn't do that. Don't do that, because then you're going to get stuck down the road. So when they say they have to work, to some degree they do, but they didn't have to. They just made all these bad choices.
Right. Yeah, I got asked, or I still get asked a lot about the financial side of having a partner that stays home. And I've covered that in a few videos here and there, because it's a very realistic question. And oftentimes, once you answer those questions, people will run home. The people who want to be home, those wives, they will fix it up and they'll go home.
You give them the numbers, you mean?
Yeah.
Like explain how to do it?
The way, how to do it. Yeah, exactly. I think, like you said earlier, a lot of it comes down to debt, I would say. It's also, I talk a lot in my relationship videos about compatibility based on future goals. That's one of the top 3 compatibility I say to focus on. And one in future goals, it's what is your desired lifestyle. The problem we have nowadays is a lot of people we're exposed to luxury way more than ever before because of social media. And so we think it's very normal to have lifestyles that these influencers have. That's another reason I did start making vlogs online, because I just live in, a little 1960s ranch. Yeah. We are not my husband's a law enforcement officer. We're not pulling in the big bucks, but I have a happy life. And so, we're exposed to luxury. And so not only do you have women that want these Target haul every single day kind of lifestyles, but you'll even have husbands that when they picture their future lifestyle, it's their income plus marrying a career woman. Yep. And that's very trapping, because if she has those babies, her hormones and her desires change and she wants to stay home, then you might have a bit of resentment from the husband, or you'll have to go through a huge lifestyle change. And it's tragic. It's just really, it's really sad. And I will say though too, we think, oh, nowadays inflation and all this stuff, cost of living, we can't afford it. I would say yes, but there's other things that we're doing to ourselves. We in the 70s, 80s, we weren't buying the amount of clothing we do nowadays, the little gadgets, the iPhones. Well,
we could do
computers.
A whole thing just on this.
Yeah.
Maybe we even should, what that looks like, right down to the budget, right?
Yes. Frugal living is a pillar of what I talk about online because of that, because I really think people are actually holding themselves back from staying home. It's not just, where they live or whatever. I mean, if you're living in Franklin, Tennessee, you might not be able to stay home. That's a really nice area. But you live in a rural place like I do, really kind of beachy, fun, northern town, it's affordable, and I think too, there's always the concept too of maybe not right now, but maybe we could get there 5 years from now. Yep. I think so many people can be very defeatist, oh, I can't afford it tomorrow. I can't afford to stay home tomorrow. I'll never be a homemaker. That's just crazy that some people do that. And it's if that's your dream, work towards it. We work towards degrees in school. We work towards promotions. You can work towards having, a wife that stays home, or a stay-at-home mom, or a part-time or whatever. I think people just, think bigger. It's kind of my also message, think bigger in a variety of ways about your life, about your family and stuff. And something I wanted to talk briefly about today was, we always talk about how the media tells young women, this is what it's like. This is the kind of woman you should be. This is what feminism says you should be. But the cool thing nowadays, I don't think that the powers that be expected, is that now we have bloggers online. You have mommy bloggers showing the joys of being a mother. You have YouTubers with children. You have homemakers like me staying at home. And so we're getting this, sometimes people play it up and they're not showing all the, darkness that can happen. But they're seeing that being at home with kids is not this hellhole that, Betty Friedan talked about in her book in the 50s. It's not this horrible trapped housewife life. And I've even seen this huge push with even just feminine fashion, because religious influencers are creating their own fashion lines now, and they're offering dresses where the stores aren't, it's just really interesting. There's
I didn't know this.
Curveball. Yes. It's a total curveball where women are able to see lifestyles that the media won't show them because of social media. And organic and it's growing on its own. And it's really cool. Like the amount of femininity accounts that have popped up in the last 2 years alone is incredible, you know, and it's because of social media. So I just feel like even though it's really dark out there, there's also like hope in a sense, you know, for women to find alternative lifestyles. That's even how I found your blog or your podcast, you know, because of alternative media. So I do think that,
Can
you
I
know,
just tell you
women
how much-
are brainwashed, but at the same time, there's options.
Yes, definitely. I hate the fact that what we're talking about is considered an alternative lifestyle.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that burns me. That makes me want to just crawl into a hole and die. I'm so sad. Because I want people to know that this is not alternative. This is actually normal. It's just that the other part has been not
alternative to.
I know what you mean.
It's
I get it.
Alternative to New York or whatever.
I get it. I get exactly what you meant. But I hate that it has to even be described that way.
Yeah. It should just be an option. It shouldn't be like, oh, I'm doing this dark, dirty, evil thing with my life if I go and be a homemaker. It should just be fine. Like we support you. Do what makes you happy. You know, it should be more.
My daughter's convinced. So she's 21 and she's convinced that her generation is much more like that. They've adopted that mentality, unlike millennials who actually think it's beneath them.
Yeah, I would say that's
that.
a difference between Gen Z. I am seeing a lot of Gen Zers balk against the idea that, you know, you have to be this punk, tough, alternative girl, not like other girls. You know, they've been pointing out that that's really sexist. And I've talked about that 2 years ago. I made a video about, you know, the misogyny of modern feminism just because it forces women to be like men. And I've noticed a lot of Gen Zers, even liberal ones, latching onto femininity in their own way, you know, and showing like you can dress like Legally Blonde and still be smart, you know, kind of pushing against that really archaic idea, you know, that women have to act like men to be true people.
Yeah. I know. And so one of the things the reason why I wanted to distinguish between the people who are fully, you know, because I do have a couple of friends who are, you know, not employed, home with kids. Right. You know, kids are getting older. They're still I shouldn't say unemployed. They're just not employed. They're wives and mothers. That's not been my trajectory, right? I've chosen a different way. And what I want is for people to understand that it's not the women you see in the media and then the homemakers of the world. There's this vast middle ground that because of technology has allowed you to dabble in both in piecemeal fashion, which is what I've done over the course of your life. And does that mean that some careers won't be an option because at the end of the day, you're still going to have to make a choice? Yes, some of them will. If you want to be a brain surgeon or a partner in a law firm, guess what? You're going to have a problem. You're going to run into massive conflict there. So you're going to have to make a choice. But that's not what most people do. Most people do move in and out of the workforce and they have jobs, not careers, or like you and me, they're able to do it from home or in an online way. So those opportunities are what, in my opinion, make motherhood today so much better than it was 60 years ago in some respects, worse in others, but that you do have more opportunities available to you without leaving the home. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, if that's something that's holding you back, from having children or staying home for a period of time, absolutely, because everything is much more fluid. And the thing too about millennials that they might not even want to admit to themselves is they don't even like staying at the same job for more than 4 or 5 years.
Oh God,
they don't like it.
Right?
So stay for 5 years, go start your family, come back. You know, stop acting like you're going to be there 25 years.
Exactly.
Most of us
That's
aren't.
My point.
That's not a thing. Yeah. My favorite labor and delivery nurse I had when I gave birth, I think she was 43 or something, and she had just finished nursing school, and she had 8-year-old twin boys at, you know, they're in school now. And so she was, you know, I'm going to go start my career and do what I want. And, you know, and she was working, I think, part-time, but it was perfect. And she was so happy to be there. She's got like this new focus in her 40s. And I think so many people are only planning until they're like mid-30s.
I know.
What they're going to do. It's so absurd.
I'm like,
you're going to
live so many more decades. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I was saying to my girlfriend, she's a realtor and she's really waffling about when to have children. And I said, you know, one of the most successful real estate agents in our town is a woman who's 60, and she started her career in her late 40s, early 50s, and she's the most successful real estate agent around. Like,
love
you
it. People need to hear that more,
older.
Kate. They need to hear so much
true.
more about that.
I mean, I would be happy not ever really taking off in a career, just being a mom, you know. Mm-hmm. But I understand that some people desire those, you know, roles. I have another friend who really wants to be a nurse after she's, you know, done 5 years at home. That's fine. And there are options. It's not this like one way or the other. Like you said, homemakers versus career woman. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
That just gets me. And
I think too, it's a lot about educating your husband on the options. Cause I think a lot of husbands are like, wait, if you stop working, then we're going to lose all this income. And it's like, hey, let's approach this from, you know, an intelligent perspective where we can see the variety of options.
Yes.
I think if everyone just kind of relaxed a little bit, they could see, you know, zoom out and see the bigger picture, you know, see the options before them. You know, you don't have to live in a 4,000 square foot house. You could downsize. You could have one car. You know, it's not the end of the world.
It's about trading. I call it trading money for meaning.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, you have
absolutely.
you're going to make choices throughout your life in that respect, whether you're talking about kids or just a lifestyle. Throughout the course of your life, you're going to have to make those decisions. And it's, do you want more money and less meaning, or less money and more meaning? And to me, the latter is always going to win out.
Well, and it's appealing to really traditional women where we're like, my husband can take care of the money. Like, I won't overspend. That's my side of it. But, you know, he can protect and provide or whatever. You know, I think that's appealing too to a lot of women who want to stay home and they don't want to be bothered with the finances, you know, and they're willing to be frugal. They're willing to be thrifty. They're willing to work on a budget. You know, it's
my daughter.
Nice. Yeah. It's sometimes
she hates
nice
anything money. Oriented. I keep telling her, no, you've got to be involved in the budget. Sit down with the budget, especially, Caitlin. You got to know what's going on. But I understand your point completely.
Is her name Caitlin?
No, her name's oh, sorry, I was talking to you just then. Her name's Emma.
I was like, that's funny. But yeah, it's just, I know there's women who want to be involved in the finances, but even for women who are very traditional, there are men out there that will marry you.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
There's just, like I keep saying, there's so many ways to go about life. And it's not just this really specific career woman path. And the thing is, you know, often with the career woman path, they do include marriage and children, but it's like a sliver of time. It's like you have to meet your husband at 28, no earlier, no later, you know, get married like right before you turn 30, like 2 months before you turn 30, and then pop the baby out 1 year later, and then it'll all work out. But it doesn't work like that for everybody, you know? And so, yeah, I guess if people just wanted to know what I'm all about or what I believe, I would just say, just relax, zoom out, and look at the long-term plan for your life. Factor in if you're going to be traditional at any point. You know, so many people get married and realize they're more traditional than they realize.
Amen.
I have so
I'm
many
saying amen a lot, Caitlin. Amen.
I have so many girlfriends who they come to me and they're like, oh my goodness, my husband wants me to make dinner every day. But when we were dating, he was like this hipster, rock climbing, relaxed, kind of chill guy. And then I said, well, did his mom stay home? Yeah. Well, that's what he's used to. You know, people change a little bit when they get married. And that's something too, when I talk about compatibility, reflect on, you know, those roles as well. Absolutely. What you expect out of a marriage, you know, that's really important too, that I encourage women to think about. And I believe, you know, if you are working, especially for the full-time career women or even part-time, I think those should be split more down the middle. The only reason I do the majority of the chores and stuff is because I am a homemaker. I'm not this crazy person where I'm like, you need to work full-time and cook your husband dinner every night. I don't believe that. And when I worked full-time, I didn't live that way. That's not reasonable.
And Caitlin, that is such a scare tactic that's used in the media all the time. It's so ridiculous. Most couples do not operate that way. No. It's exactly how you just described. Whoever's home more does more. I was home for years and years and years. I did more. I'm still.
Well, now we have a baby. He's helping out more with stuff because I literally can't do it all.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And now that my husband's actually been home since COVID, he works out of the house, but he normally travels and hasn't been able to. He's been home for a year. I have an office outside the home. He's literally doing all the dishes in the laundry, you know, for the first time really in all these years. So it's just to function It's functionality. It's just whoever's
and like I said,
there.
It's fluid. It changes year to year. It changes in your season, and it should never be, I will never fold laundry in my entire life for my husband. It should be
Whatever
based on what
done.
you're going through. Yes. And like I said, when I work full time, we split it down the middle. Now that I don't, it's whatever works best for the family to amplify both of our lives. I guess.
And you're absolutely right about that, because when you're hearing about the chore wars and all of that from the media, you're right. It's all full-time working parents who are finding themselves fighting and over those things, which
what I tell them? Hire a cleaning lady.
Hire
a cleaning lady.
But
if you can afford it.
Yeah, but Caitlin, they're talking about the day-to-day stuff. You can't have someone there on a daily basis to go through all this stuff. And what they're basically complaining about, first of all, they're the ones who are that group is going to have these conflicts in a way that traditional setups do not. That's number one.
Absolutely.
Number two, they're having it and they're not realizing that men and women respond to childcare and household chores, especially household matters, differently, because women see things men don't, or it's not so much that the men don't see it, it's that they don't care as much as the women do. So that whole nesting thing doesn't go away just because you're breadwinning full time.
Yes.
You still have it, and you're fighting that, and you're mad about it, and you're blaming him because he's not like you.
Yeah.
And then you go on your podium and tell everybody that.
Right.
What's that?
I was just going to say, it's just very exhausting. When you add the career and then you still have, that nesting urge, you still have those natural female tendencies about yourself. And the modern world with those careers isn't set up to accommodate those things.
Yep.
And that's why I do prefer being home, because my life now accommodates how I am naturally. And life is just a lot easier. I'm not going to keep that a secret. It is easier for me to stay home. And I do honestly respect and applaud people who make it work working full time, because that's it's a lot harder. It just is. And I think the sad thing though is people are surprised that it's harder because they think everyone's doing it and everyone told you, okay, go get a career, then you'll get married and it'll just flow. And the thing is, it's a very modern concept. This is another thing. People are mad about women not being in the workforce, blah, blah, blah. They had to stay home. Well, often breastfeeding your newborn child instead of working in the field was a lot nicer of an activity for the afternoon. Modern, comfy, cushy jobs are that's a very recent thing. There wasn't that many years when women weren't in those environments with men, and jobs for so long were just about hard work, and it wasn't about typing away at your computer and doing a brand deal,
or finding yourself and get your identity going. Right.
Yes. But even though those jobs aren't labor intensive, they're still mentally intensive and emotionally draining. Yes. On top of everything that comes with marriage and children, and marriage is a responsibility. And I think people think, oh, it's just like living together when you're dating.
Exactly.
Not really. It's different. And there's all this stuff that comes along with it too. And so I guess it's just, if people are finding modern life difficult, they're not crazy. It is difficult. It's not set up to be easy. And I don't know why that is. Maybe life is just hard, but there are, like you said, ways to go about it that might make it a little more enjoyable. Maybe working part-time, maybe getting married younger, maybe making time to date, maybe not trying to climb the career ladder before you're 35. There's options.
There are options.
I keep saying.
And they're viable. They're viable. And they're good.
Yeah.
And before we get into, I want to get into the masculine and feminine thing, because that's so much about what your shtick is, for lack of a better word. But just real quick, how did you get to be the way you are with your mindset about it? It's very, from my experience, it's unusual for your age. People have always wanted to know why I'm different from even my age group. And now I'm going to turn that on you and say, is it your parenting? What is it that makes you you?
I think it's a combination of things. So I've referenced this a few times in my Q&As, but I grew up in a Dutch immigrant community. And so all of our grandparents emigrated after World War II to a rural area in Canada. And then we essentially just grew up with a very Christian Dutch culture that essentially doesn't even exist anymore in the actual Netherlands, but because it's very atheist there. But that Christian culture was really fermented in the community I grew up in. And so all of my friends had stay-at-home moms. I was different because my mom worked, and no one got divorced. We had one kid in our class with divorced parents. It was just and not like a hyper religious, we all wore long skirts kind of thing. It was just just Christian reformed, straightforward Christian community that had an emphasis on family and the Bible and, you know, wholesome living. And so I think a lot of it is how I grew up, just what I talk about now, that was how I grew up, and it was very normal. And so I think that's a big part of it. But then also I just really value like wholesome living. I don't feel my happiest. I don't feel the most comfortable in a very high risk environment. And to me, a high risk environment is hookup culture. You know, moving in with a guy before you're married, having kids before you're married, being unsure about where the money is coming from, or traveling all the time, not having a future plan. You know, I've always valued security and safety and just the logical, traditional way things have been. I think that's my personality. And I've seen that in a lot of my fans. They're similar, where it's like, we value being safe and we value the smaller joys in life. And so I think it's a combination of how I was raised, but also, you know, the environment, and then just my personality, and then ultimately to my faith. Because when you do look at a lot of these very just rational concepts, a lot of them are very biblically based, and that's a huge portion of my audience. And even if it's not biblically based, I have a lot of my audience where they're Jewish or they're Muslim, you know, just religious,
faith based. And no, although then there's the piece, and that you would know more about this than I would, but then there's the feminism that has infiltrated the faith culture. And so
absolutely.
So what percentage do you think come away with faith and think like you versus have fallen for the lies, so to speak?
I think it's a smaller and smaller portion. You're starting to see something that used to be called the emergent church. Now it's just progressive Christianity. And it's essentially people who couldn't reconcile their politics with their faith. And so they switched around things within their faith to fit their politics. And that's very common. I have most of my college friends are like that, even though I went to a Christian college. And then a lot of the Christian friends that I grew up with, if they didn't get married, a lot of them did kind of go down that, like, I'm interested in politics and feminism, and how am I going to reconcile this with my faith? So it is definitely having an impact. I think a very small percentage of people come out like me, because also you have to be slightly headstrong.
Yes,
you have to be willing to question, you know, and you also have to be willing to put your happiness above what other people are telling you is a good thing. And I think, you know, something I've struggled with in life is like being kind of selfish. You know, that's like a sin area in my life. But it served me in the sense that I was, you know, selfish enough to be like, no, I want to get married young because that's what I know will make me happy. And I don't care what you guys are going to tell me. I'm going to go be a little selfish and live my life path.
And you should.
And yeah, and I just think more people should value their own, you know, lives over just, quote, like I said earlier, quote unquote, looking like a good person, you know, because who cares if you look like a good person if at the end of the day you're anxiety ridden and miserable and you wish you were married and you're not, you know.
Right.
It's just,
although I wouldn't call it good person. You mean looking like a cool person, like you're doing the trendy thing.
Good to like liberals or whatever. Say. Yeah.
Amen. Okay, so let's get into the femininity, masculinity thing. Okay, because that's so much about what you and I both preach, is the complementary nature of these things. So you did this. Well, you have tons of videos on femininity, but one of them that struck me was the 5 ways to be more feminine, and I thought they were very good, and I liked how you mixed what some people might think of as the more surfacey type stuff with the deeper stuff. Okay, so I don't know if you want to go through those 5.
Sure, you're gonna have to remind me.
I know. I remember I've had people ask me what I did on some past thing, and I'm like, what did I say? Okay, I have them here, so no worries. But before we do that, really quickly, let's just identify the masculine traits and the feminine traits. You described, again, very well, masculinity as protecting, defending, building, and femininity as beautifying, nurturing, and tending. And then you called those things out on the femininity part in that video about 5 ways. So number 1 for 5 ways was to beautify your outer self, because it makes you, and this is important, more confident. And you were talking a lot about diet and exercise there, and just general looking good, as opposed to letting yourself go, because that builds the confidence. Not for, oh, look at me purposes. It's for how you feel, right? And I've said that about putting on a dress versus sweats, right? As a woman, you immediately feel different, right?
Yeah. That came up because I was seeing a lot of people get into feminism and then suddenly they would either severely neglect their beauty or they would intentionally do things that would mar their
emphasize
beauty.
that.
Yes.
Oh.
And I see some people, it seems to be from a place of, I'm so gorgeous, I can have a buzz cut an extra 40 pounds and still look gorgeous, and the thing is, I think
you should be able to. The idea that
right,
you should be
they
able
have
to.
this concept. Yeah. And it's like, we're all valuable in the eyes of God. I totally believe that. Do I think that gives us an excuse to neglect the temple? No. And so a huge reason that's a main through line in my content is because beauty for women, it's something that starts when we're so young, where we want to, put on the lipstick like our older sister or get dressed up or discover what colors look best on us. It's a natural thing that I don't think we need to be making fun of. So many women are like, oh, that's just superficial, or women who care too much about the way they look, they're silly, or they're not smart, or they're bad women. And I just want to kind of reclaim feminine beauty and spending time on your beauty for traditional women, because too, you have with the traditional community the people who won't ever touch makeup or who think it's evil to work on the way you look. Yeah, so I wanted to strike a balance where it's like, it's about, like you said, building confidence through this external action point. It's not always easy to have this superfluous concept of being more feminine and just, okay, talk sweeter or be a little more gentle. That's very it's a hard concept to just apply to your life today. But can you take better care of your hair today? Yes. Can you start to find silhouettes that look better? Can you have a healthier meal? Yes. And I think that's what I wanted to give my audience, is just practical ways to enact things that will make their life better today. Do I think it's the end all be all? No. Do I think if you should spend all your time focusing on your beauty? No, but that's why there's obviously 4 more points to the video. But,
okay, so
yeah.
Number 2, beautify your home / environment.
Yes, that's another thing. So many, I feel like there's this running joke now of like college girls have the grossest houses. Just when women get together and live together, it becomes disgusting. And that's just wrong. It should be the opposite. When women get together in college and all live together, the house should be beautiful because we're all, applying our feminine strengths to it. Yeah. And I think women, a lot of women, myself especially, take a lot of joy out of beautifying their space, and that could be different for different people. I love decor. It could be through cleaning or organizing, but either way, it's a very, typical Jordan Peterson concept. Clean your room, clean your space, because again, that's similar to cleaning up your appearance. It's something actionable that you can do today. And I do think it brings out the feminine nature because it's something you can do in the moment. It's not hard hitting. It's not conflict. You don't have to go, fight at work or do something really intense or labor, it's just sweet and simple and it's light. And I think people need more of that in their lives, especially it's just so dark out there nowadays. If you want to spend time putting up curtains, put up curtains. But yeah,
I mean, the reality is that is a female. That's what I meant before about women who are working and then they get frustrated and resentful at home because they really want to nest and they don't have time to nest.
And it's
so
okay they blame, to want that. Yeah.
No, but I mean, they blame their husbands or society or whatever for why they can't. But of course, it's a result of the choice they're making. We just are that way as women. And my it's really fun to hear my daughter when she's occasionally home. Now she's in school in Texas, but if I'm gone, if she's home visiting and I'm out working and my husband's he works at home, like I said, right now, the candle isn't lit, the air's not on right, or everything's not right, the house is dark, he doesn't turn the lights on, and she's like, it's so different when I walk in when you've been there.
Yeah.
And just normal.
There's going to be women who don't relate with that, but like you said at the top of this podcast, I think the majority do. The majority of women do like doing up their homes. Yeah. And again, I think another reason I think it's important is because I also really value being self-disciplined. That's a major concept too in my videos. And cleaning up your room every day, making your bed every day, you know,
Same.
keeping a clean kitchen is self-discipline. It's not really about the way things look. It's more about developing your character through these things, even with the beauty, you know, because a lot of beauty is what you eat and how much you move. A lot of it is your daily effort to take care of your skin and hair, you know, and ultimately it comes down to self-discipline. And I think underneath beauty or underneath a beautiful home, that's what people find attractive. It's the character of self-discipline. And that's another thing, you know, these concepts are also created to help women understand, you know, how to attract men easier. You know, I think a lot of women wonder why they can't attract men. And so, and a lot of people aren't willing to answer those questions because it's taboo. But the thing is, a lot of people want to get married. That's a normal thing to want. And we got to give people the tools. So I do think cleaning your home, cleaning up your appearance, I think that's attractive to men. And if you read online men's forums for research, you will find that that's some of the number one things they complain about. You know, I like this girl, but she can't cook anything, or her house is trashed, or she's doesn't take care of her body. You know, that stuff matters in relationships, just like we care about if our men are slobs or don't exercise, you know?
We've gone so off the deep end, Kate.
Yeah.
I mean, from one extreme to another in the last 50 years. I mean, this would have been a ridiculous conversation 50 years ago. It would sound funny. You'd be like, what are you talking about?
Absolutely.
Number 3, and I love this one, and I'm always working on it. Which is funny because I do preach about it. I'm much better than I used to be, but be a gentler listener. Be a gentler listener. And this gets less into about what you look like and more how you behave in a relationship. And when you've been married as long as I have, you know, it can be hard. It's very easy when you're dating to be that wonderful listener, right? And years go by and you have to really keep exercising that muscle if it's not something that comes natural to you, which for some people it is. My daughter is a much better, typically speaking, listener with other people, not so much with me all the time, because, you know, she's my daughter. But if you're a natural talker, or if you have a lot to say, or if you have a lot of passion, or, you know, it's hard. And so I've had to really exercise that muscle to get good at it. And I'm still not even there. So I really liked that one.
Well, I included it because it's a call for myself as well. You know, I totally agree. You know, when you're a talker, when you're excited about something, you have so much to say. What I've learned, even just since I've made this video, kind of in the past year, is that behind gentleness, and especially the concept of gentle listening, I believe is just being humble. Because if you are truly, you know, selfish or even prideful, you're not going to care about the details of other people's lives. You're not going to want to listen to a mundane work story from your husband, because you're out for entertainment. You're out for yourself, either what you have to say, or if something's boring, you don't want to hear it. And that's a very common trait in modern people, which is sad, you know? And I think to truly care about somebody else, you know, there's that through line of humility, and, you know, naturally that represents itself through gentleness. And why I included not just be gentle, it was gentle listening, is because to listen is to be receptive. And that's just the ultimate thing with femininity, you know, Absolutely. To be the receiving partner. That's even the anatomy of the situation. And I think that concept it's just viewed as weakness, but I believe it takes a strong person to be truly humble, to have the character to be gentle. And and again, including listening, because yes, you're receiving information from somebody else. You're not listening to yourself talk all day, or you're hearing somebody else's ideas. You know, you're making room for that other person in your life, and it just also, it truly benefits relationships. Everything I try to talk about on my channel, the motive behind most of it is how can we benefit your relationships? Because I think, as passionate as I am about homemaking and femininity, the thing, even though I don't talk about it the most, the thing I'm the most passionate about is healthy male-female relationships, because that ultimately impacts the next generation. It impacts your happiness throughout your lifetime. And, you know, so cleaning your room, looking beautiful, and listening, like actually listening. And that doesn't mean just nodding and staring off into space. It means asking questions that apply. It means giving feedback,
the best way I help, in my coaching, I do relationship coaching, and the best way I help them women get back into that space is what I said earlier, is just immediately conjure the image of what you were like when you were dating. There's just no question that you were doing this like nobody's business. Like it was the easiest thing in the world, right? Because you're in a completely different headspace when you're doing that. It almost becomes natural for you in those months to do that. So just channel that energy that you put forth then and do it again and again and again and again, right?
It's like the years together, sometimes women can grow some sort of superiority complex over their man. And I always say, he was fine before he met you. He didn't need you. He was thriving. You wouldn't have gotten together with him if he was not a total hot mess. Yeah. Right. And so, as much as he might benefit from some advice here and there, treat him with the respect that you had, like you said, when you were first dating, because he doesn't need, he needs you, but he doesn't need you, and that's a humbling,
he doesn't need you to direct
concept.
His traffic. Let's put that way.
Yes. And that's a healthy thing. It's actually a burden off a woman's shoulders to realize she doesn't have to mother her man. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go through the last two kind of quickly because we need to close up. The fourth one is ditch the streaming devices, and replace it with a hobby or something constructive, which I love, because this is, I couldn't agree more. Agree more.
It builds your character. It builds your life up, your personality. You'll be happier for it, And again, it brings out that feminine tendency of nurturing, tending to something. We naturally want to fiddle at things. There's a reason women are all into the knitting and the crocheting and the baking and the cooking and the, the sewing and all of that, because we like to create. We do. And I think that's a huge missing piece in a lot of women's lives, and a TV show is not a hobby, and it will not fulfill you the same way, especially before you have children. I think when you have children, you obviously don't have as much time,
right? Exactly.
But if you're filling all your hours with streaming services, yes, I can promise you will be so much happier if you pick up a hobby.
And I also encourage people, if they are going to watch TV, and it sounds like you and I do it the same way, where it's like the old days. There was a TV there with a couple of channels. You decided which one you were going to watch. You sat down, you watched it, and it was over, and you got up. That's how I do it.
Yes. We don't even watch TV. We watch movies because it offers you that experience. Yes. Yeah. Where it's like, we're intentional about
turn it on. Yeah. I mean, turn it on and then turn it off.
Yeah.
And then
no phone. Yeah.
And then watch something. God, watch something old. Yeah. There are some things you can watch today, but very few.
Yes. And I think I said in another video, but streaming services and like a TV show is not your personality trait. Liking true crime is not a personality trait. Being and sitting there and being entertained is a passive way to live life. And that's okay for part of your life. But these companies have overtaken, our lives. And I just think it's important to wake up and realize, what are you dedicating your time to? At the end of your life, I'm not saying your knitted. Yes, I'm not saying your knitted blankets are going to be necessarily more important to you than, watching 6 seasons of Dexter, but you might be happier for it, and you might have more to give to others, and I think that's, again, what's going to benefit your relationship.
I think people need to just do a challenge for that, because it's too hard if they think about it for a lifetime. But just do a 1 week challenge of doing this, and you don't have to sell it to you. You'll see on your own.
No. Exactly. I used to, even when I made that video, I used to watch TV way more than I do now. Like, we don't ever turn it on, never. And it's not because of the baby. It was even when I was pregnant. It just wasn't a part of my life. And that's not because I'm better than other people or I'm blah, blah, blah. It's just because, I made that choice, and anybody can make that choice. You don't have to be a specific version of self-controlled to make this choice.
No. And in the larger context, what you're really getting at here isn't just specifically femininity, but you talked about this in a different video as well. It's really about not being a passive consumer of crap that you're letting into your life, but be mindful of what's coming in and not letting it in.
Yes, and being active and building the life proactive. That you want, not sitting back and letting other people make your choices for you. It's just, it's a weird combination of just relax, it's going to be okay, but also push yourself, be honest, and be active, be proactive. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
This is going to be a lifelong endeavor for us all, right, Caitlin? Okay. Number 5, last one, regain your privacy. Yeah, you're talking about having an air of mystery. My mother used to tell me this.
Yes, that's a sweet way to say, stop talking about vulgar things around other people, especially men. Stop airing everything
that's so
out.
common. Caitlin, that is so common. Got my generation too, not just yours.
I think it could be a personality thing with me. I got voted in college. I got voted my floor's Grace Kelly because I've always valued just, kind of like a Kate Middleton type vibe. You don't have to be
class. It's called class.
Yes,
Caitlin. Class.
You don't have
never goes out of style.
You don't have to be like an actual princess to live like this, but you can have that elegance. And elegance is a huge topic too on my channel. Privacy is, I think so many people get turned off with the concept of modesty. And that's why I do approach it from the perspective of privacy. Because it's about protecting yourself, not just, your body from the eyes of other people. Sure, that's part of it. But there's also just, protecting your heart, protecting the details of your life, protecting your vulnerabilities. I think so many people are like, well, I've even gotten this criticism. Well, you're not authentic because you're not letting us into the private parts of your life. And the thing I have to say to that is I don't have to let you into the private parts of my life to be real with you about this other stuff, and we're so used to knowing every single detail of people, from how much weight they gained last week to what kind of surgeries they got, or the details of their divorce, even of influencers. I feel like a lot of influencers feel like they owe that to their audience, and you don't.
I rarely ever talk about my kids and my husband. I never talk about our private lives or what we're doing. And I often think I'm probably one of the few who I'm sure I'd get a lot more attention maybe if I did, But I don't care.
It's just this exhibitionist way of living that's become the norm. And to be out to brunch and you hear girls at the next table loudly talking about menstruation, it can get a laugh. It can make you feel like silly or, daring in the moment. But what are you getting out of it at the end of the day? I feel like it's just very degrading. People are self-degrading all the time. And I want my audience to thrive. I want the people who follow me to thrive. And you're not going to thrive if you're just pouring yourself out for people who aren't giving you anything in return, and there's a time and a place to have those conversations. There's moments for giggles about that stuff. There's places to expose what you want to expose, but it doesn't have to be to the whole world. And I think I've put femininity really is about reclaiming a level of fragility, and delicacy. And the world wants women to be harsh and aggressive and so intense, but you don't have to be like that. You can be delicate. You can be fragile. You can have parts of yourself that you aren't going to share to the whole world. And that's okay. It doesn't make you a weak woman. If anything, I think it makes you wise. And I think the wisdom is a huge part too of that, urgent message to younger women to keep yourself private, because so much too, even just oversharing online. So many people have this gross pit in their stomach after they overshare, or they share too much, or even they just post photos that kind of share too much. And I think people should have more agency over who gets to consume their life. And when you're online, you don't have agency over who's consuming what. And that's a huge problem right now for even me with my content. I've really gotten in the swing of making not daily vlogs, but day in the life vlogs. Now that I'm a mom, my day is my son. And I can't put him online like that. I just can't. I want to preserve his privacy. And I have, I don't mind posting a photo of him here and there, but it's just, am I going to put my career as a YouTuber over his privacy or even my own privacy? No, I would rather lose all my followers and just go live a normal life. You know?
I've been so thankful that the first 10 years of my life as a mom, this was a non-issue. We just did not have this stuff.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine I look at these people who are just, the moment they give birth, they're sharing it with the world instead of just taking it with that moment. And that's, I think that is something that's been very much lost.
Well, that's even some people wanted me to share my birth story, and I actually filmed it, and I was gonna, but did I want to share it? No. And I was talking about it with my husband, and he said, you don't have to share anything you don't want to. It doesn't matter how much these people love you. It doesn't matter how much you love them. It doesn't matter, how much they want to hear it, or how good of a story it is, or how bad, you don't have to share anything you don't want to. And it's just been so freeing. I will give a little plug for my husband at the end of this podcast. I could not do this without him, because he's the one who's encouraged me so much in these beliefs, in, being the fish swimming upstream. And, he's never putting pressure on me like, oh, I know you're postpartum, but go make a video so we can make some money. He just supports me, and I wouldn't be able to do life without a partner like him. So yeah, I just think it's really important for people, like even with the privacy, to tie it all in. It's just like we were saying, it's agency over your own life and building the life that you want, and not just being in a constant state of reaction.
Yes.
Oh, I'm 30, maybe I should get married, or, oh, I want this. So you're just constantly reacting to life versus, you can't plan everything, but you can plan a lot more than you might think you can, Yeah.
Stop right there. That's awesome. I really like that. That is perfect. That is such a perfect ending to this.
Yes.
And this has been so great. And I got to tell you a little secret. You are the longest.
No.
No. This is a good thing. I'm saying I'm really impressed. This is the longest interview I've done, and I can't believe how quickly the time went. You're amazing. You're an awesome guest.
Well, we're very passionate about the same things. So of course we could talk for a day and a year about it.
We are. And I don't think people get to hear you in this way. So I would encourage people, again, some will have heard of you and some won't have heard of you as far as my listeners go, and tell them again where they can find you. I mean, it's not that hard. But.
Yeah. So I have a YouTube channel, Mrs. Midwest. I post content there. I would encourage you to look through my catalog of content. It's evergreen. You'll find a lot of good videos, especially from when a year ago or so, before I got pregnant and I slowed down.
Yeah.
And then I have a blog, mrsmidwest.com. I talk about a lot of this stuff there. And then on Instagram, it's Mrs. Midwest as well. So pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And I think if you guys listen to, watch a lot of these videos, as I did in preparation for this, it'll be really fun for you to come back and listen to her talk after you've seen her do these videos. It's just a different angle from which to hear from you, which has been awesome.
Probably.
So really appreciate it. And I want to talk to you again when my book comes out. I feel like there's just a conversation we need to have.
I would love to, because right now I'm a lazy content creator, so I will go on your podcast.
Okay, awesome. You've got to come back. Although this is actually going to air about a month away, 6 weeks away from when it actually comes out, which is August 31st. So
it's perfect. I'm looking forward to that book.
Yeah. Awesome. Me too.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have a great conversation about it.
Sure.
You can be definitely helpful with that. So awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Caitlin.
Thanks
really
for
loved
having
it.
me. Yeah.
You take care. Okay.
You too.
Bye. And that ends this hour of the Suzanne Venker Show. Don't forget to continue the conversation on Facebook by typing in the Facebook search bar, The Suzanne Venker Show. Also, please recommend this podcast to one friend you think would enjoy it, and don't forget to leave us a review on whatever platform you're now using. Finally, if you have a question or comment for me, you can email me at suzanne@thesuzannevenkershow.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great week.